Hey, welcome to the Strong Roots podcast. My name is Kristen Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Hey, Strong Roots. I'm here with Jen, and we are talking about loss of a season. We are in our Strong Root seasons of loss and grief, and I cannot wait to talk to her about this because I really feel like you have an insight and wisdom and faith that is going to bring a lot of clarity to this. So would you just open up by just divulging what this looks like for you personally?
Okay, well, my story of grief is probably different than some of the other ones because it involves going through my daughter's drug addiction, which was a process that lasted about 7 or 8 years. Mm-hmm. Started off kind of minor with her dabbling with some, pills and marijuana, and me being this naive parent who had no clue.
Right.
No, I didn't know the signs. I didn't know what to do to stop it. I didn't know anything. But it didn't stay there. It progressed into such a horrible, severe drug addiction to where she was shooting up heroin and meth and fully dependent, fully living the entire drug lifestyle away. I didn't know where she was, completely gone. And in the midst of that, the state came in and took her daughter away. And suddenly I ended up with custody of a 2-year-old.
Wow.
At a point when my youngest daughter was 15. So I was finally like, yes, I have a little bit of my own life back, where I can kind of do things that I desire and, pursue different things. But no, I was struggling, with watching my daughter face this horrible, horrible drug addiction, not knowing if she would survive,
right,
if she would break it, not knowing what the outcome was. And then kind of feeling resentment because I was now raising this 2-year-old whom I love dearly, but I wasn't in a position where I was like, yay, I get to raise my granddaughter.
Right.
So my story is basically just God walking. It's about her drug addiction in a sense, but it's more about God working in me through that drug addiction.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how has God demonstrated his goodness to you through that grief?
Boy, God's been good in so many ways. First, I think that just he made his presence known to me so clearly. It started where I was angry and bitter and, just confused about everything. And I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know other people with children who were drug addicts or anything. And so I turned to God.
Right.
And I just got on my knees and I prayed. I took long walks and I prayed. I got in the Word. And so God really just comforted me through it, through his Word, through there was a time when I could almost hear God whisper to me, my child, rest in me. And it reminded me of the verse from First Peter 5:7 that says, cast your cares on him because he cares. And that's what I did. I just started casting my cares on him. And I felt his presence in me. And also, I saw God's goodness by changing me, changing my heart, from going from a heart where I would look at addiction and addicts and I would think, why don't they just stop?
Right.
Why don't they get a life? What's their deal? Why should we feel bad for them? This is their choice. To God totally transforming my heart to a heart of compassion. Like it says, I think it's Ezekiel, where he talks about a heart of stone being turned into a heart of flesh. It's like it was that. God turned my heart from viewing addiction so negatively to now I have a ministry in reaching and helping women with addiction. And that wouldn't have happened without me going through it with my daughter. Yeah.
So how, I feel like you're answering this, but how have you changed? How has this transformed and changed you as a person?
Well, for one, just the heart of compassion. So today I'm able to take the story of going through that, and I'm able to go into the jail. I'm able to go to the work release place and pick up women. I'm able to talk to them, minister to them, I pick them up for lunch, or if they call for, a ride to church, I go pick them up. And so it's just changed me from going from viewing them so negatively to, hey, I want to help you.
Right.
I have a story, and I have a God who can change you.
Absolutely.
And it's also changed me in another way, just realizing one big thing I realized.
Yeah.
Nothing happens to us that comes like past God where he's like, whoa, I didn't see that coming,
Yes.
And because of that, he knows. He
Yeah.
knows where we are. He knows exactly everything that's going on. And if he knows and he's not changing it, he's allowing it.
Right.
And if he's allowing it, it's for our good.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to totally change my mindset to when things are happening around me that I don't like, that I can't change, that I, don't understand. It's instead of looking at it and being like mad about it or wondering like, God, why? Why don't you just fix this? It's more like, okay, God, you know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
What can you teach me? How are you going to use this for my good and so that I can use it to help other people? So,
Yes.
yeah, God's totally changed me. And at first, I thought the addiction was about her,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was, in a sense, but my story is not about her addiction, really. It's about God changing me through walking through this grieving process where, I literally did have to grieve her to a point where I didn't know if I'd get her back. I had to let go completely. And it's interesting, though, because I went from being angry and bitter to totally being at peace, totally feeling content. And I reached a point in it where I was able to say truthfully to God, you know what? I'm good with whatever you decide.
Yeah.
If you rescue her, great. If she dies and I get that dreaded phone call of an overdose,
Right.
I'm okay. If she continues living with it, I am okay. It is well with my soul, whatever you choose. And it was like a month later when she got arrested, put in jail, and came to live with me then. And she's never gone back. She's been clean now we celebrated over 3 years of sobriety today. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes. And we also got to rejoice with her this year. She went to court and got custody rights back of Lila after, not having custody of her for like 4 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. There were tears in the courtroom because it's just so rare that people break these addictions.
Yes.
It's such a hold.
What a victory.
Yes, it's been great.
So through this process, you mentioned there's some anger, there's some bitterness.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that? How did you give that to God? Explain that process to us.
Okay, yeah, it did. It started with tons of anger and tons of bitterness. And at first, I just went to him and I just pretty much let him have it. I went on my knees crying. Maybe, I don't think I was yelling early, but maybe.
Yeah.
But I told God exactly how I felt. I wasn't afraid to hide it. I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. He already knew.
Yeah.
But me releasing it to God in terms of words, I was able to get like a release from it.
Yeah.
And I just begged him, like, either change the situation or change me, change how I view this, because I can't go on living in bitterness. Like, it holds you down.
Oh, it does.
I was crying every day. I was upset. So it was through time spent with God in the Word and praying that God really just worked a miracle in my heart and totally transformed my heart into where I could be content. Like Paul says in Philippians, like, I've learned the secret of being content in all situations.
I love that.
Yes, and it's true. But in order for that to happen, we have to be willing to seek God, and we have to be willing to give up and let go of our own desires, of our own, I don't know, what the outcomes that we are hoping for, and just saying, God, whatever you have for me, I know, I trust you.
Yeah.
I trust you.
What do you wish someone would have told you, or what advice do you wish you would have gotten before all this happened. Is there anything someone could have shared with you that you could have been wise without so many scars?
Probably just that, just like letting go of my control. I think as mothers, especially, we have this control over our kids. We take care of them. We control their every move pretty much,
Yeah.
And when they get to be older, you lose that control. And then when they get into a drug addiction or something like that, you don't have any control.
Yeah.
And so I tried to hold on to the control. I tried to change it. I tried to beg her out of the addiction. I tried everything. I wish somebody would have said, you know what? You can't do anything.
Right.
There's nothing, literally nothing you can do. Let go. Let God.
So good.
Yeah.
So in this, what has been, I don't know, maybe it's that Paul verse, but has there been a verse that has been like your verse through this whole thing?
Well, those verses I mentioned, the cast your cares on me one was big. I also loved the verse in Matthew. I can't recall where it's at, but when Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burden, and I will give you rest." The theme of getting rest from God seemed to be a huge part of my grieving process. Just going to God to the burden was heavy.
Yeah.
I had to let it go.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's your new normal look like? Like what is life now?
Well, now it's so good because my daughter's 3 years clean and is like, she's picked up all the pieces, and she's lived with me the entire time. She and Lila will move out this week, though.
Wow.
So my new normal's actually about to really drastically change because they've been there for so long. But now I have a story.
Yes.
That I can share, and I can help these girls who are, struggling with addiction, can be there for them. I've actually talked to some of their moms too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Some of them have asked, will you call my mom and just explain to her your how you feel about it.
Right.
And I could not have done any of that had God not allowed me to walk through this really, really tough time. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. I love the quote. A lot of times our greatest misery is our greatest ministry.
So true.
Isn't it?
So true. If life were smooth sailing and you had nothing major go on, like you wouldn't have, what could you share? It's a lot harder to share. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have some questions for me?
Yes, I do have a couple. So, what has been your favorite scripture or Bible passage or story that helped you go through the grieving process?
That is I kind of feel like you. Like, there's so many. I think, honestly, to answer honestly, I feel like Jesus' story. I think I feel like all the stories in the Bible are woven together, and they're all, there's no perfect person in the Bible except for Jesus, right?
Yes,
God and the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And so I find comfort in all of their stories.
Yeah.
And in different seasons relate to them in different ways. Yeah. But I think Jesus' story is the one that I turn to the most because of he was perfect, and people hurt him so badly. We murdered him, and here I'm standing like, why are you doing this to me when Jesus is, you know what I mean? Like, went through it all. Yeah. And we're the ones who murdered him. Yes. So I think the gospel is truly what really pulls me through my grief, because John says it often in sermons, how can we stand in the shadow of a bloodstained cross? Yeah. And, complain. We are so blessed. Yeah. And I find that it spurs me on to follow Jesus all the more.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's great. Okay, got one more.
Okay.
Did you learn something through grieving that you would not have learned without it?
Of course. Oh, so much. I feel like this is often said, but you said it even, that there's so much God does and so much we learn that we could not have learned if it wasn't for grief and it wasn't for the trials and all the things that happen. I will say what you said, compassion. Like, I think all the grief I've experienced in my life, I would say I was probably compassionless in that area. Whether it was, depression, anxiety, whether it was thoughts or things people did. And, you
Yeah.
know, I feel like God has either brought people into my life who are going through it that like, that I love, that makes me have
Yeah.
compassion, or he makes me experience it myself so that I have
Yeah.
compassion.
Yeah.
And I think all of the grief and the loss has truly humbled me and emptied me
Yeah.
to have God be more in me.
Yeah.
So, do you feel similarly?
Totally. Exactly like that.
Yes.
Yes.
But you almost like, you wouldn't wish it on anybody, but you would go
No.
back and do it all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of what he done.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
thank you so much
You're welcome.
for coming in here and sharing your story and sharing and what God has done. He has done a work, and
Yeah.
I just really believe that there are so many people who are listening to this right now that are so grateful for you sharing your experience. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for listening today. So excited to continue this season, and I cannot wait to catch you next time. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.